Imagine a scenario where the President of the United States can unilaterally decide to cancel billions of dollars in funding that Congress has already approved. It sounds like a radical power grab, and that's exactly what's happening right now. The White House's latest move to cut $4.9 billion in foreign aid funding through a tactic called pocket rescissions has been slammed as a clear violation of the law. But here's where it gets controversial. The administration is using a loophole to bypass Congress and make these cuts without their approval. And this is the part most people miss. This isn't just about politics. It's about the real people who will suffer as a result of these cuts. The funding in question includes development assistance allocated for the U.S. Agency for International Development, which means that people in need around the world will be directly affected. But before we dive into the implications, let's take a step back and understand what pocket rescissions are and how they differ from regular rescissions. When Congress appropriates funds, the White House is obligated to spend the tax dollars accordingly. However, there is a legal mechanism in place that allows the White House to send Congress requests to undo funds that were appropriated but not spent. These are called rescissions packages, and they're a legitimate and legally permissible process. On the other hand, pocket rescissions are a secondary maneuver, where the president attempts to cancel funding in a window of time so late in the fiscal year that there's not enough time for Congress to weigh in. The consensus view among most credible observers is that pocket rescissions are illegal, and the Government Accounting Office has explicitly stated so. But the White House is pushing forward with this tactic, and it's not hard to see why. It's a way for the administration to exert control over the budget without having to go through Congress. And this is where it gets interesting. Some Republicans, like Senator Susan Collins of Maine and Representative Mike Simpson of Idaho, have spoken out against the White House's move, calling it a clear violation of the law and unconstitutional, but others have remained silent. And it's unclear how this will play out in the coming weeks. The shutdown deadline is just 4 weeks away, and it's likely that this issue will come to a head soon. So what does this mean for the future of budget negotiations? If the White House can unilaterally decide to cancel funding without Congress's approval, it undermines the entire process of bipartisan negotiations and compromises. As Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut wrote online, Trump is rooting for a shutdown. He knows he has created a huge problem, because now any budget deal with Republicans isn't worth the paper it's written on. The question is, what will happen next? Will Congress be able to push back against the White House's move? Or will the administration succeed in its efforts to exert control over the budget? One thing is certain. The outcome will have far-reaching consequences for the country and the world. So we have to ask, is it right for the president to have this kind of power, or is it a violation of the separation of powers? Should Congress be able to approve funding without the risk of the White House canceling it later? Let us know what you think in the comments.